Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination, cultivating true contentment, the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, at our simplified URL, tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From a Monday motivational post, recipes, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and readers' favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which is posted each Friday morning. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 364th episode of The Simple Sophisticate, and welcome to the 10th season of this podcast. We began way back in September 2014, so we're stepping into our 10th year, and I'm so excited to still be here with you, sharing new content, exploring new concepts, and generally just trying to figure out how to live a little bit better every single day. So what is today's topic about? Well, as we step into September, schedules are changing. Perhaps things are picking up a little bit more speed in our schedules. Responsibilities may be increasing. Things may be shifting in some way or another as we step out of the holidays for many of us. When I say holidays, I mean the summer holidays. But I'm suggesting that we manage our energy more wisely. As opposed to, say, time management or stress management, let's try to focus on energy management. Today, I'm going to share with you how energy management can elevate the quality of our everydays with 6 daily habits. I'll be breaking each of these down, sharing some examples from my own life, but also sharing with you why stress management and time management, while they definitely have or incorporate similar concepts or focuses as energy management, they actually don't get at the heart of what I think we're all trying to do. And we'll chat about what that is as well. And I want to begin first by apologizing for the quality of the sound in the last couple of episodes. I have received a couple of emails and comments, and I want to, like I said, apologize because I'm still getting used to my new system. And what happens is I turn away and start talking farther away from my mic. And my volume on my new system hasn't been turned up to the proper volume amount, I guess you could say. So still working with it. I'm learning, and I am hopefully going to sound a little bit more clear in your ears today. With that said, let's chat. Oh, before I get to the focus of energy management, our topic of conversation today, this week's petit plaisir is one that is from France, and a little bit of an investment, but not really. One that will definitely play a role in an evening or morning or afternoon ritual that will infuse you with a little bit more energy. Perfect. Dovetailing into our topic today. So let's dive right in. Our topic of discussion today, energy management for quality everydays, 6 daily habits to include. Prevention versus correction. For a few decades now, or perhaps more than a few, stress management has been the term of phrase often used as we find a culture, and more specifically ourselves, nearing or reaching burnout, whether in our jobs or life in general. And while bringing healing and remedy to something in our lives that needs our attention for improvement is certainly valuable and a necessary skill to learn should we find ourselves in this state of fatigue and chronic stress, preventing such a state from ever being reached is a far more beneficial approach and gives us much more enjoyment and, contentment for a far longer time throughout our life journey. Similarly to stress management is time management, a term of phrase, again, that is used often but actually brings our attention to the wrong place. Living simply luxuriously is a drilling down and investing in quality over quantity. And this includes how we go about our days. Time management shares directives on how to squeeze more into the day. But energy management teaches us how to thrive throughout our entire day, something the former doesn't prioritize, although it does keep it in the equation. And here's the important detail to keep in mind. Energy management is going to be unique to each of us because we are each unique individuals traveling during different periods of our life journey, experiencing different chapters of our life. So to focus on time management is to focus on a very logical, concrete approach. But we are not stoic, robotic individuals. We have ups and downs in our moods, our physical abilities, our mental strengths for focus, willpower, etc. And that is why shifting to energy management will actually solve the issues that stress management and time management are trying to address, but also ensure that you are honored for the individual that you are. So let's take a look at 6 habits to consider when managing your energy well throughout the day in order for you to thrive, enjoying each day, even when you're attending to those tasks that are have-tos. Number 1, give yourself at least 30 minutes in the morning before you really start the day. So in the book titled Change Your Brain Every Day, Simple Daily Practices to Strengthen Your Mind, Memory, Moods, Focus, Energy, Habits, and Relationships by Dr. Daniel G. Amen, he shares how the brain is still in a lethargic limbo land sort of mode of thought when we first wake up, whether we are waking up from a long, lovely 8 hours of deep sleep or not. So knowing this can go a long way to designing a morning ritual that works for us, and also what time to set our alarm if we have to have an alarm on. And that is part of it as well. Create a morning ritual, no matter how early you have to or get to wake up, that begins the day well. And rituals are something that we've talked a lot about on the blog and here on the podcast. And most recently in 2021, I wrote a detailed post that shared 7 key components of my morning routine. And I can say that I genuinely enjoy waking up in the morning primarily because of the rituals that I've put into my morning routine. It is something I truly and thoroughly savor, and it really is quite simple. Nothing extravagant, nothing odd, nothing that costs a lot of money, if any money at all. But the most important part is that I give myself enough time so that I can be properly nourished both mentally and nutritionally. The awareness of your mind is going to play a critical role across nearly everything we're going to talk about today. So it's really going to sit in the background of all that we're discussing. And this is why I wanted to begin with point number 1 of knowing that it's going to take your brain about 30 minutes to really wake up and get out of that groggy state. Now, some people may say, well, that's why I jump right into the shower when I wake up. And that's great. That can be part of your ritual. But know that unless you're taking a 30-minute shower, it still may take some time to get your mind to really be churning on all levels. And for you to be in control, what we're really talking about is for you to be in control of your mind. I mean, if you've ever been, and I've been here many, many times, you wake up super early, and I'm an early bird person. I love waking up early, but 3 o'clock's a little too early. However, in those instances when I wake up that early, I now know, okay, the thoughts that are going to start running through my mind are not probably going to be constructive. So maybe turn on some classical music, or maybe start reading a book. Even if I am rested and ready to go, I'm doing something instead of ruminating. because that's likely what your mind's going to do if you're still laying in bed and are awake, are ready to go, but you don't know what to do with yourself. So this is where the ritual comes in. And as I share, I really do break down detail for detail what I do when I wake up. And the first thing I do is I turn on my classical music. I let something beautiful fill my mind. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't even have to be music. It could be your windows open and you know the birds are going to be talking and singing and you want to hear that. Or it might be a sound machine, or it might be nothing at all. And you're just going to go sit in a quiet spot in your house and sip a hot cup of tea or a hot cup of lemon water and take a few breaths. Maybe this is when you meditate. Again, create a morning ritual that gives you 30 minutes to not have to do anything to prepare yourself for the day. That's number one. Number two is so powerful. Know thyself. What energizes you, what drains you. As I have progressed through my own mindfulness practice, this is something that I've talked about in detail, not necessarily mine, but the 16 lifestyle and health benefits of cultivating a mindfulness practice. As I'm building this and I've been nurturing it very intentionally and with a lot of consciousness for the last handful of years, one significant improvement is my awareness of the world around me, but also how and why I feel and respond the way I do to various situations and people. And it's not just the person, it's usually what they say, how they engage with me. So it's, everyone can have an off day, don't get me wrong. But when you start to see a consistent pattern of how you feel, positive or negative, around someone, that's something to pay attention to. This knowledge is both priceless and invaluable in making better decisions to design a life that nourishes each of us and what then will therefore nourish your well-being. If you are listening to this and you are acknowledging that you would like more energy in your days, you are acknowledging, yes, I feel more drained than I want to, something's got to change. But you don't really know where to start. Here's where to start. Make a list of just the past week's events and people you were in contact with, no matter how small. Whether it's the errands you run or the big event you had to attend or wanted to attend and thoroughly enjoyed. This is for everything that you've done. And the people you talk to, make a note of what you were talking about if you can remember that. Write down the purpose of the event, write down the time of day. That is really important because sometimes it's not the people or the event, it's the time of day and the energy you bring to that time of day. Again, you're just transcribing right now, you're just writing down the facts. Once you have taken down all these notes, then go back and examine your energy levels on each of these days and in each of these moments. At this point, if this is your first time assessing your energy, just catalog this information. Don't make any big or drastic changes, but you're just deepening your awareness at this point. And most likely, you're going to become even more quickly aware of how you feel around certain people, around certain topics of discussion, certain environments, as you move forward. And as much as you are trying to figure out what drains your energy, you are also trying to figure out what gives you energy. So, for example, I know that my creative energy, when I get a wellspring of new ideas and when I can really just, work with them and figure out how to share them, I'm best in the mornings. Always have been, but when I became really aware of this, I started to really protect this time of day. In fact, it took me a while to figure out when I would be taking my French classes because I realized, I need to make sure my French classes don't get in the way of my morning creative time when I write posts, when I write my podcast episodes, whatever it might be. So I'm really good now about making sure my mornings are protected. And I always schedule my appointments, run my errands in the afternoon. And there's usually a couple days during the week because of the different posts that I write throughout the week and different projects I'm working on throughout the week where I'm like, this day of the week in the afternoon is the best because I know that I will not run over, meaning I like to let my mind just flow. And so if I need a couple more hours to finish a project, I need to be able to do that. And if I have an errand at 2:00, then I know I'm going to constantly be thinking about the clock, and that will impede my creativity. So again, you know what you do for a living. You know what you love to do, whatever your passions are and what fuels you. So protect that time. And then make sure that you are doing what you need to do during different times of the day when you are thriving at that particular skill. And that's why it's important to mark not only what you did and who you were with, but also the time of day. Other things to think about as well are the meals you had and the food you eat. I'm becoming even more conscious of this, and I think as we get older and also maybe just more awareness and knowledge about information and what different foods and whatnot do to our systems, being very cognizant of how I feel after I eat certain foods. And that has been a great motivator in being more disciplined, not depriving by any means. You know I love my cheese and I'm going to have a glass of wine with different meals that I make. But it's this awareness of how you feel, what energizes you. And so that is just so powerful as you go about designing your day for energy management that fuels you rather than drains you. So once you begin to see your patterns, then you can start making different and more beneficial decisions that become more regular opportunities for energy to grow and fewer that drain your energy. And I've included the post about the 16 lifestyle and health benefits of a mindfulness practice on the show notes. If you want to explore, number one, what a mindfulness practice is, but also why to maybe ponder bringing these skills into your daily life. All right, so that's number 2, know thyself. What drains you, what energizes you. Number 3, set boundaries. So I put 2 in the order that I put it in because you have to know yourself first before you know what you're going to put boundaries around. Now that you have this invaluable information, now setting boundaries becomes imperative. Once you have the knowledge of yourself and know what energizes you versus what drains you, this is where setting boundaries needs to come into play. Boundaries protect your energy, but also give you space to do what you love, which is energizing. Sometimes the boundary might involve changing a relationship that you have with someone, but sometimes it's about helping ourselves focus our attention and give us unstructured time to just be. So boundaries can also apply to where we allow our mind to go. In other words, mind management. This is where meditating and strengthening our ability to be aware of our thoughts and not let them wander down an unhelpful route of worry, anger, or negativity comes into play. So the boundary setting is as much for working with other people and living with other people as it is for living and working well with ourselves. I've included one of the more popular podcast episodes that we did last year overall, but this was shared last year, where we talk about boundaries, and this was inspired and directly derived from a book by Nedra Glover Tawwab, and she wrote a book about setting boundaries to find peace. And so I've shared my episode 343, how setting healthy boundaries contributes to true contentment. I've included that in the show notes. And I've also included episode 316 because this is so much overlapping with what we're talking about here, setting boundaries. How do you cultivate a life full of vitality? Well, episode 316 talks about that and how it contributes to your overall well-being. So that's number 3, set boundaries. That is imperative. And we'll talk a little bit about this at the end, but initially it might be uncomfortable to do this. But really you are giving yourself preventative medicine so that you can thrive. All right, that's number 3. Number 4, take complete breaks. Understand your natural physiological rhythms. So in the book When by Daniel H. Pink, he includes a study or research from psychologist Anders Ericsson, who studies extraordinary performers. And one of the things he discovered that these extraordinary performers have in common is that they are all quote, really good at taking breaks, end quote. Typically, and this is for artists and athletes alike, so anyone who is top in their field, they begin their days around 9 a.m. and then take a complete break, some even taking naps. But in other words, they step fully away from their craft in the afternoon before resuming practice for a few more hours in the evening. While we may not all be able to take a nap or want to take a nap in the middle of our day, fully stepping away from our work in the afternoon before the day's end, so right after lunch, about 1 to 3, anywhere in that window, no matter how long you are able to take, is actually an energy booster. Pushing through, just going straight back in, even after a short little break, is not something that you need to fully, yes, completely step away. Even if you have to step away from your office, go for a walk, but even just turning your computer screen off, reading a magazine, reading a book, closing your eyes. This is why the nap comes into play. You don't have to be doing anything. In fact, you shouldn't be doing anything that's a have to. Take a complete break. A lot of the times what I found that's helpful for me is I do something entirely different. So I might still be in my house because I work from home, but I completely take a totally different break and just maybe I go out on the porch and I'm pottering in the garden or throwing the ball for the dogs, or it could be an errand that has nothing to do with my work. It's usually about 30 minutes to an hour. And then in the evening, if I need to finish up a project, I have a clear mind. I was able to fully step away from it and come back. This is also when I tend to edit. I edit a lot of my posts in the evening. I'll write them in the morning, take a full break, complete break, do my errands, do the have-tos that have nothing to do with the blog per se, except for business stuff. And then I come back and I've been free from creating. And I've thought about maybe some new ideas or thought, I should say this differently, or, I need to read through that. I don't think I worded that correctly, whatever it might be. But I have a clear mind. So a complete break. And he brings in a lot of science into the book When. I really enjoyed that book When. I think some of you have read it as well. It's the scientific secrets of perfect timing. But we have a natural ebb and flow throughout our day. Most of us, if we're on the clock of getting up, around, going to work 8 or 9 in the morning, having lunch, our afternoons typically are when our energy ebbs. And so it's actually a good idea not to fight it. This is where we can take that complete break, get re-energized, and then go about the rest of the day. It's going to be unique to each of us, and this is why knowledge is key about ourselves. But if you're curious about all the different science and findings they found out about with regards to when people are more likely to cut corners in the middle, when student gym attendance increases, when judges are more lenient. He breaks all these little seemingly everyday things down, and he has science and statistics about it, and he includes the specific time of day of when different things are more likely to happen or not happen, as the case may be. So it's a fun book just to get some insight into commonalities. And while it might not be the only reason a judge is lenient, if it's consistently happening over time, it's something to pay attention to. All right, so that's number 4. Take complete breaks. Understand your natural physiological rhythms. Number 5, bring the workday to a fulfilling close. So Daniel H. Pink writes in this book When that I was just referring to, that rather than bolting from the office or our place of work, wherever that may be, when we are able to leave, close our computer, etc., at the end of the workday, we actually nurture ourselves and our perspective of our work better when we reserve the final 5 minutes of our workday to reflect. He suggests taking 2 or 3 minutes to write down what you accomplished since the morning, end quote. And this need not be all work related, but something, and perhaps most of what you write down with regards to concluding the workday, it would be most helpful if it is work related, as it brings your mind to focus on what went well at work, what was achieved, and thus a feeling of accomplishment and a deepening of your appreciation of the work you do. So what we focus on is strengthened. But if we forget all that has gone well and the progress we have made, it can be easy to feel as though we are always putting out fires. And this, just thinking about this, drains our energy. Now, in a post I wrote about vitality, I mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode, How to Cultivate a Life Full of Vitality, episode 316. One of the things she writes about and research has shown is that venting is not something that's helpful. And the reason I bring this up is that, again, what we focus on either drains us or energizes us. And if we're focusing on the things that are not going well, so say we're venting to a colleague after hours in the happy hour, whatever it is, or we're at home venting to our partner, this is actually not helping the situation. Focusing on what's going well, even if it's so tiny, it's hard to find, but it's there. You still have a job, for example. I mean, really, if there are things, it might be small steps that you've been making with a client. Write those down. But when we focus on what's going well, we actually promote more energy into that focus, and that gives it an opportunity to grow and to be something that we see more of. Conversely, same thing happens if all we do is vent about a problem. We tend to see that problem more often because we are looking for it. Okay, so that's number 5. Bring the workday to a fulfilling close. And this is also a practice in being very conscious, being very present in our day, and being aware of what happened 8 hours ago at the start of the day. Did you get a parking spot close to the building? That's a win. Write it down. I mean, there are days when it's going to be hard, but there are probably, I'm fairly confident there are going to be more days where so much is going well, and that's why you come and give it your all. All right, so that's number 5. 6, let yourself be a child again. In multiple books, one Wired to Create and the other Rest, just to name a few, the freedom of play, time to do whatever our curiosity leads us to explore, is a regular habit to welcome into our adult years as well as our childhood. When we play, whatever our play is, and it will be unique to each of us, our mind is free, present, and content, so it relaxes, and thus the body relaxes. Prioritizing time to play, whether it is outside or inside, tinkering with a new creation in your hobby room, or a new recipe in the kitchen, or digging in the dirt in your garden, you have permission. In fact, I urge you to play, and do so regularly. Even if on those full days you only can do it for 15 minutes, you can just step out into your garden for 5 minutes to appreciate a flower that you grew. Do it. Hopefully you have lengthier periods of time more regularly, but even on those really tight days, this is helpful. As well, almost as if by magic, when you bring these moments into your day to just play, solutions and ideas will arise that you would not have been able to reach had you forced them to come to the surface. So think of play as a powerfully nourishing practice, as preventative medicine, not to easily remove from your schedule. And in episode 139, so quite a few years ago, the book Rest, written by Alex Sujun Kim Pang, is the inspiration for that episode about an everyday necessity, deliberate rest. If you want to explore more ideas as to how you can rest or play, because really what he's talking about when he talks about deliberate rest, and his book is just titled Rest, he's not talking about laying on the couch zonking out. He's talking about child play, about letting yourself be free of constraints. And so I encourage you to pick up that book if this is a concept or a habit you want to incorporate more fully and regularly into your life. So that is number 6. Let yourself be a child again. Now, admittedly, it can feel as though it is easier to manage our energy when we are not responsible for children, for clients, running a company, running a household. But I would argue it is actually even more important to understand as well as practice effective energy management. As well, when we practice these above habits we've just chatted about, we are modeling to others to respect themselves as well, and encouraging more self-awareness, which has the powerful benefit of helping us each make more constructive decisions for our overall quality of life. Sometimes it can feel as we shift how we move through the day. So maybe we've applied all these 6 habits now. We've applied the boundaries, we've reduced our schedule or prioritizing play, but it might feel, because we're less fully booked, that we have these gaps in our planner. We have these white spaces of nothing. And this might feel really uncomfortable at first. It might feel really foreign. But there's a powerful lesson to be had in making sure you have these spaces in your daily life. Having time to ourselves, whether we are surrounded by no one or surrounded by many people, yet doing what we need to do on our own to unwind, relax, etc. We are exercising a truth shared in the book Wired to Create by Dr. D.W. Winnicott, who says that the capacity to be alone, quote, is one of the most important signs of maturity in emotional development, end quote. So it is in these moments of solitude, which whether you're extrovert or introvert, we all can benefit from them. What will change and be different is the amount of time we have and enjoy in solitude. So it is in these moments of solitude when we realize how meaningful such time in our own company can be. And our joy and fulfillment are fueled during these times. And thus, it is a source of being energized. It really comes down to awareness, conscious decision making, and letting yourself enjoy your life. I hope these 6 habits spoke to you in some way, inspired you in some way. And again, this will be the outcome of how you tailor your day for maximizing your energy management will be unique to you. So enjoy the journey of figuring out how to manage your energy. You can check out the show notes and all the links I shared in this episode on the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 364. And I'll be right back with this week's Petit Plaisir. This week's Petit Plaisir is a Francophile find, and it is candles from the company Carrière Frères. Now, this is a company that was founded in 1884, and it is also a company that values highly sustainability. In fact, when you place an order, their goal is to be as environmentally friendly as possible. They produce all of their products in mainland France, and more specifically in Normandy. They do not use cellophane, foam padding, ink, and the cardboard they do use is now 100% recyclable and FSC certified. Their candles themselves are part of this sustainability approach, as they're made from 100% vegetable wax and from European organic rapeseed. And of course, the most important part of a candle is how it smells. And oh my goodness, I absolutely love this candle. I was introduced to it from Sharon Santoni's My French Country Home box, who consistently sends out items from France that are brands I immediately fall in love with and continue to order on my own. This is one such candle. I enjoyed their La Rose candle the first. That was the first one that I had, and I've been enjoying that in my primary bedroom until it was done. And I just found it incredibly strong in the sense that you could smell that there was a candle burning, and natural in its scent. I've recently restocked and have purchased their lavender candle as well as their sandalwood candle, and they have beautiful containers for the candles, and you can reuse the candle holder and have your candles refilled so that you're not getting a new holder as well every single time. Now, I share this as this is part of my evening ritual. So it's part of energy management. It is something that punctuates the end of the day. It is something that calms me down and reminds me to start winding down. And it is a simple luxury, but one that serves the purpose of what we were just talking about, of what is it that fuels me, what is it that drains me. And beauty, not just with what we see, but what we smell, is powerful. So that's something to pay attention to as well. So I will include a link to Cartier Frere's candles. They have all sorts of other products with regards to home scents as well. And as we step into a new season, whether it's fall or spring, wherever you call home, I am confident you'll find a scent that speaks to you, the season, and the feeling you wish to bring into your home and your rituals throughout the day. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Now, before we wrap up today, I just want to remind you that when September arrives, everything is starting anew on the Simply Luxurious Life. We have the podcast kicking off its new season, as we did with this episode for season 10. We have the new blog schedule, as far as I took those 4 days off just after French Week in August, and now I'm back on the horse. And the fall shopping guide went out on September 1st. It's the big shopping guide of more than 80 handpicked items. As well as I completely restocked the capsule wardrobe shop on the blog, where I have more than 70 handpicked items that are your timeless essentials for spring and fall. All of that has been completely updated. And then we just step into the new cooking show season this Saturday. So coming this Saturday on the 9th, the 6th season of the Simply Luxurious Kitchen Cooking Show kicks off, and that will run through November on Saturdays. We're going to go every other Saturday, a new episode, all the way to actually right up to Thanksgiving, so just past the middle of November. So it really is an exciting time of year as we step into the new season of all things Simply Luxurious. And I hope you can find something that inspires you, that encourages you, that makes you smile and elevates your everydays. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And until our next episode, which airs on Wednesday, September 20th, where I'll be talking about decor, actually. And then the following episode, I'll be talking about the subject of international travel preparations, because in October, that is what I'm going to be up to, and I'm so excited to share with you all that I find as I travel to England in October. All right, wishing you a lovely first full week in September. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Couple Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things simply luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the first and third Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.